Afternoon, folks. This is a quick look at a knife retailer, sort of knife retailer review. And today I'm looking at Indiana knives. Note that this is a review from the point of view of someone who lives outside the United States. I'm from New Zealand, but it may be of some interest to people in the US. Also, there's no sponsorship or special deals here. I paid retail, and the guy who owns it, Eric, wouldn't know me from any other random rooster. So why did I buy here? The main reason was that they had an exclusive. They had the G10 scaled Metamorph front flipper from Real Steel. And as you may be able to tell from the Boca Excalibur here, I'm slightly partial to a front flipper, so I thought I'd give that a go. And yes, you can blame Nick Shabazz, which you probably blame Nick Shabazz for a large quantity of the knife purchases over the last 3 or 4 years, but there you go. They also seem to have a reasonable reputation on the YouTube. Frankie and Bird seem to have visited and had a good time, and the Nicks also bought a knife apart from the G10 Metamorph there, and he's a fairly picky sort of guy, so you have to assume that they're at least halfway reputable. According to the interweb, they're in Bloomington, Indiana, which as far as I can tell from New Zealand is somewhere in the middle of the US. So if that makes a difference to you, there you go. The owner's a guy called Eric Ziliak, which I'm sure I butchered, but sorry about that, Eric. Quickly having a look at the website, not actually going to have a look at it, not that techie, but it's fairly simple. But for the knives that I was looking at, it was actually had quite good information, and the pictures were actually a bit better than on some of the main websites like your Blade HQ and what have you. They seem to have a price beating policy, so if you see the knife advertised somewhere else, they'll match it, which has got to be good. They do say that they won't actually make a loss, so if someone's got a fantastic deal which they can't match, they won't meet that price, but that sounds fair enough to me. They do offer priority shipping in the US post boxes, one of these United States Postal Service things. That sounds good. Apparently some people just ship their knives in a bubble wrap pack, which I guess particularly if you're buying a more expensive knife or a delicate knife might not be quite what you're after. And Eric does say on the website that if you want anything checked or you're worried about anything, say you don't want a knife with a super hard detent, or you're particularly worried about getting good centering or early lockup, then he'll have a look through the models that he's got, or the samples of the models that he's got, and try and select one for you. And that's got to be worth probably quite a bit, really, particularly if you don't have a good quality local knife retailer, which in New Zealand there is really only one, as far as I can tell. So for most people in New Zealand, there is no local knife retailer. For a non-US shopper, I couldn't find anything about overseas shipping on Eric's website, Indiana Knives. So I tried putting a knife in the cart and quickly found out that the only place you could get it sent to was the US, or rats. So I emailed Eric, since he sounded like an owner-operator, and thought he might be able to stick one in the mail. But no, he said that it was just too hard with the custom and postal rules for a small business like him, and apparently knives have a pretty thin margin. So no, it couldn't do that. So I either had to get a friend in the US to buy it for me or have it sent to them, or use one of the freight forwarding services. And so this time I've decided to use one of the freight forwarding services. This one is actually Stackray, I think. Might do another video on that a bit later, but it obviously arrived fine because here it is. I put my order in, went super smoothly. There's no need to join and create yet another password, which is always appreciated, so thanks, Eric. And the system took my American Express, which is never a guaranteed thing, particularly if you've got an overseas address. So that's nice. You can pay with PayPal and the various credit cards. I was a bit surprised. I got an email from Eric thanking me for the order and wondering if I wanted him to remove the boxes. I was ordering 3 knives, and normally that would have been in the next size box up, which is quite a lot more expensive to have forwarded. So he offered to do that, and I said, yep, sure. So that's very nice and much appreciated, and not the sort of service that you'd get if you bought it on your Amazon or probably your Blade HQ or something else. The speed of the shipping, my order was confirmed on June the 29th. I got an email saying it was on its way on July the 2nd, and it arrived in the US on July the 3rd. Now that seems pretty speedy to me. It went from Bloomington to Nashua, which Google tells me is a distance of about 1,600 kilometres and would take 15 hours to drive, so it sounds like pretty good service to me. From there, at least from Nashua, it travelled to New Zealand via the freight forwarding service, so anything from there on is obviously nothing to do with Eric. As far as I can tell, all they've actually done is put a label over the top of Eric's and stuck it in the mail. I have opened the box just to check there's no massive personal details, but I haven't removed any packaging or checked the knives. So let's open this up and have a look. As everyone else notices, it's not the easiest thing to flip a knife of any description when you're looking at it under a camera, but there you go. So, okay, we've got some fresh paper packaging, so it's not just flopping around in the box. Okay, so we can get rid of that. So that's nice, and we seem to have I suspect that's a stubby holder with what should be 2 metamorphs, and the Reich knife hummingbird, some Indiana Knives stickers, and that's a card from Eric saying thank you, but it's got my name on it, so we'll pass on that. Now here is the tiny little hummingbird, which, as you can see from the size of my fingers, is quite minute, and I gather these are really difficult to flick. Yes, they are. You can flip it out. Quite incredible looking thing. You have a look at the Damascus. It's a very pretty little knife, but quite whether it will be large enough to be useful, I honestly don't know. But it looks to be in perfectly reasonable nick and nicely scented. That would get some interesting comments down at the beach, I'm sure. Now these obviously normally come in some sort of packaging, some sort of box, but this is what Eric's taken out for me, and so they've got a bit of bubble wrap and a Real Steel cloth. Yes, that is a Real Steel cloth, and this is the, as we say in New Zealand, the aluminium scale. I think you say aluminum or something, but that looks like a pretty well scented knife. No idea how easy it would be to front flip. Not easy, obviously, particularly under a camera. The lockup looks fine. And this is the Indiana Knives exclusive, which is the G10 handled version. And again, the centering looks to be excellent. How easy is it? And you can open it without attempting to front flip it if you try. So I'd say that's a success, really. The packaging looks good. They're not just rattling around in the box. Nice touch, being given some stickers, and the bottle or stubby holder I'll have to investigate further. I'd say that for someone in the US, this would probably be an excellent place. If you didn't have a local knife shop who were really good, I'd say this would be excellent, because you can communicate exactly or directly with the person who's going to be both ordering the knives, packing the knives, and owns the shop. And you know, he obviously will go the extra mile, I guess, to try and get the knife that you want. And if there's anything in particular that you especially need, he'll make an effort to do it. I think on a few of the different brands he does offer a sharpening service, and so you might like to investigate that. For someone who's overseas, it's probably a good choice mainly for exclusives or knives with poor quality control, and there are a few of those. Your Nick Shabazz will lead you down the path there and point out which ones do and do not have decent quality control, but there are certainly a number of the US made knives where the QC's pretty slack. Probably the most valuable part of buying from Indiana Knives, I suspect, is actually that the personal nature of the service. Given that sending a knife back certainly from New Zealand to the US can be around $70 US, which is quite a bit. It could be more than a number of knives. Making sure that you get the knife that you want the first time is really important. So, yeah, I'd say that if you've got any concerns along those lines, that Indiana Knives would be an excellent place to buy. There probably are some places with cheaper postage, and I'll probably have a look at some of those in future reviews. But unless price is your absolute top priority, I'd say next time you want to get a knife, try Eric at Indiana Knives, indianaknives.com. Just stick into your favourite search engine and away you go. I'll be looking to figure out how to flip these not underneath the camera, and have yourself a great day. Cheers.